Wow. Can't tell last mother this, right? Yeah. Can't tell last me go live on YouTube. But I have some free time for my hand this morning. I have some free time on my hand. So, good morning, YouTube. Wow. How you all been? Funny. Just the year going easy still. Good morning. Some just so easy. It's amazing what praises can do. You know, last night I got some interesting facts about an eagle, and it was like, wow, this blew my mind. I never know that's like I never really looked into an eagle before, but that's an amazing creature. It's an amazing. Now I understand why they say we must soar like an eagle. I understand it now. So basically, let me see. For the past 2 weeks and little, I've been in and out of the flu-like feeling. I think it was my sinus, not sure. Because all the doctor gave me was some bag of medication. Yeah. But kind of feel like I'm a sinus. Even at the Easter break, oh Lord. Eat some cheese and trust me, do me bad. Do me real bad. Oh, just remember some have a sandwich in my bag. That's my stand mash up. My phone stand mash up. I have mango. Can mango work? I'm can my lunch. My daughter made sandwich for me this morning. This was in the plantain and egg. Did I save it for when I go work? I make one cup of tea. But since I'm sitting here, so might as well. Right? Welcome. I see one person on. Thank you for the thumbs up. Tell me that my daughter make egg and bread with plantain for me this morning. Hey, Fuga Mama. How you doing? Thank you for stopping by. It's been ages since I've been on this platform. On a live stream, especially. So, just chill out in my car. Because for some reason, I'm extra early this morning. When I drop off my son at school, one single person return at the school. And I normally drop him off like 7:30 going up. So I did extra early this morning. That I get bad in the kitchen, you know. I plant on that egg tastes nice. It's still the exercise, Fuga Mama? Honestly, it's been a while since I've been on anything YouTube. I only been like putting out a 1 and 2 shots here and there, but really need to find back my inspiration. I think I lost it, and I really need to find it back. No, I'm missing a lot. But what I'm trying to do lately is to spend more time in God, in per se a lot of meetings that I never used to go to church. Hi Paris, welcome. Is that Brianna? I'm trying to do more, take more part. Oh, Shelly. Hey Shelly, what? Yeah. So I'm going to more online stuff in regards to church. So kind of take us a lot of time. Because the times that I would normally come online, those are most of the times. By the time most of these things finish, it's like 10 o'clock in the night. Me just 10, 11 o'clock, I go to my bed for work. Okay, Shelly. Like last night, I joined a session from 7:30 and it never finished till about 20 to 10. Might finish. I scroll through TikTok a little bit, go bed and go to my bed. I find this channel on TikTok named Jewelry. Had me cracking up last night. Kind of like it though. It's kind of giving you some Christian facts and some Christian myths. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Okay, Shelly. I probably just I never charged my phone last night. I have a tendency to charge my phone at 15%. So my phone is presently at 32%, so it might not last for the entire hour that I have, but until it says bye-bye, I will be here. It's nice to eat bread and I drink nothing, Kind of bread have a little dryness about it. I'm a water bottle there, right? But trust me, our egg tastes nice. Just moist. Well, that is that. So guys, I've been reading this book and I'm telling you, I don't love to read. Like a lot of people think I love to read. You should bring a cup of coffee to wash it down. Well, the whole intention in a Shelly was to eat it when I get in the store. That was the whole plan, but because I read so early, I said, you know what? Let me just eat it like I'm there. I'm not a coffee person per se. Coffee normally used to give me headache, so I'm not a big coffee person. Probably I don't get the art of making coffee. but I'm not much of a coffee person. So I've been reading this book. I don't want to, push it up too much in the screen. It calls The 5 Love Languages, How to Express Heartfelt Commitment to Your Mate. And trust me, the book can go on with itself. Like, I'm not a big fan when it comes to reading, but I met this lady. I went to visit a church with one of my church sister, and I think they're trying to bring about a library in the church. So they have a whole bunch of books. So she lent me a book, and I read it and I returned it. And so she sent another book to me. But the day when I met her, she was telling me about the book. And so she sent it to me. I should have finished it already. Based on the time that I got it, I should have finished already. But like I tell you, I'm not a big fan though. Think I need to work on that too. There's so much things we need to work on. Oh Lord. But let me see. Alright, so listen this. I am actually at the end of one of the love language, which is an act of service. Right? So it says, make a list of all the requests your spouse has made of you over the past few weeks. Select one of these each week and do it as an expression of love. Cut out some heart-shaped note cards and print the following. Today, hey, Servant David. Well, bro, a long time in a go live. So it says, today I will show my love for you by, and complete the sentence with one of the following: mowing the lawn. So whatever the list of stuff that the person make, you're going to put it. It could be mowing the lawn, vacuum the floor, washing the dishes, taking the dog for a walk, cleaning the fishbowl, etc. Doing what, Servant David? Reading. All right, give your spouse a love note accompanied by the act of service every 3 days for a month. All right, so I was saying I'm reading this book called The 5 Love Language. So I'm almost finished with the love language of acts of service. So I'm just reading the tips that because normally at the end of one of the love language, they give you some tips. All right, so it all depends on your spouse love language, right? So let me just jump down here. So all right, so the love language number 1 is words of affirmation. Number 2 is quality time. Number 3 is receiving gifts, and I'm at number 4, which is acts of service. And then I would go on to number 5, which is physical touch. So, it all depends on what your spouse like, right? And honestly, I did not know my love language until I read this book. I normally get irritated by something, and I realized when I was reading this book that this is actually my love language. Well, that's a thing. Maybe that is not the person's love language. So maybe you are doing what the person is not fond of. Like, say, for instance, you are doing acts of service, like washing the dishes and all of those things, but that is not the person's love language. The person really don't care if you're assisting the house. Probably what the person wants you to do is spend quality time with them. So you get what I'm saying? So everybody really have a different language. So you just have to see which one of them is your spouse. Trust me, the book nice, but I like it nice. So it says, ask your spouse to make a list of 10 things he or she would like for you to do during the next month. Then ask your spouse to prioritize those by numbering them 1 to 10, with 1 being the most important and 10 being least important. And you can use this list to plan for the month and to live an happy get ready to live with a happy spouse. So basically this only works if your spouse love language is acts of service, right? Hey Bet, how are you, my dear? So it says your spouse is away. Get the children to help you with act of service for him or she. Yes, it has been a very long time. Really, it has been. But guys, I schedule a live stream. I think it's for next week, Tuesday night. So I schedule a live stream, so you can always go over there and thumbs it up and press the that was actually supposed to be the live stream that I should have come from. But like I said, I have some free time this morning, so I said let me just jump on. Even though I didn't have any plan, I was just like, I'm gonna chit chat, whatever comes to mind. And then this comes to mind. So it says, when he walks in the door, join the children in shouting, surprise, we love you. Then share your acts of service. So let me say this, not gonna work for him or she if the love language for that person is not act of service. Right? What one act of service as your spouse nagged about consistently? So like for me personally, I believe that my acts of one of my love language is really acts of service. Like I get irritated if my husband like I go and I wash up the dishes and he doesn't eat like probably eat something after I wash the dish and then put down the dirty dish. You know, I feel a way if him don't wash the car for me. But I mean I go cuss and go on, but it does irritate me if he doesn't wash the car for me. Like, come on, dude, you see the car dirty from when. And even if me get up for go wash it, you know, say, no babes, me wash the car. You understand? So it seems like I attract the same set of people. I'm tired of it now. Sure. But I think, hey Jordan, I think, most of the times we identify the person love language in the dating process, and we would do all of the things that the person like, but you see, once we get into the relationship, we tends to not do it again. And so we find out that, look here, the person, you're wondering if the person change or if you change, but you wonder what has happened between the dating process and the relationship process. But that's when you stop doing what the person had actually liked. Like, for instance, I read a section where this young man, when they were dating, right? When they were dating, he would have come over to the young lady house, and every time when he gets over, he would have, if she have any chores in the house, because they were dating from school days. So, you know, if he had any chores if she had any chores to do before she and him could go and, have their quality time, he would assist her with the chores, like, probably wash up the dishes, probably set the dinner table and all of these things. And while they were dating, he would do all of this, and she would have shown the affection that he needed. So when they got married now, he spent all of his Saturdays going fishing, which he used to go fishing before, It's not like he never used to do it, But before they were dating, what he would have done, he would have gone fishing and he would have come back early, wash his vehicle, and go to see her. So now that they're in a relationship, fishing now has taken a more dominant part in his life. So she was saying that, look here, fishing is not my problem. It's the old fact that him gone fishing the whole weekend, and when he come back, him gonna work, him not help me in the house, him not cut the yard, him not do nothing like this. So she, the wife, now had to do all of this. So when the counselor, which is the writer of the book, when he was saying to the gentleman, when you were dating, how did you do this? And he was like, I would have gone fishing early, came back home, wash my van, and I would go and see him. So when you said to him, no, so why you have not been doing this? No. I used to do that, and then I realized that I'm not designated to do dishes and house chores, and people in house are the picnic them purpose mess up for me clean. Understand. That is totally understandable because you have persons that are really spiteful, right? So his explanation for why he had stopped doing it was growing up, he lived with his mother and father who were married. His father only job was to provide and to wash the van and mow the lawn. His father never cleaned the house. Him never do nothing for help the mother in the house. So his mentality is that a man's job is to provide. The lady's job is to do everything. Wash, clean, press, everything. This is not my job. This is your job. So even when she would now get overwhelmed, he would say, this is your job. So if he comes home and there's a dirty dish, he might get upset because this is your job, right? So the background that we come from truly does affect our relationship some of the times. But on his part, his dad used to mow the lawn and wash the car. But in his relationship, his wife had to get somebody to mow the lawn, and she had to wash the car herself. So he's basically following his dad example, but still not following it 100%. So yeah. All right. So another request is that if your spouse requests for acts of service come across as nogs or put downs, try writing them in words that would be less offensive to you. Share this revised wording with your spouse. For example, honey, I love you so much. You're a hardworking man, and I really appreciate you. I'd love to thank you in advance for mowing the lawn this week before Thursday when Mary and Bob come over for dinner. Your husband might even respond, where is the lawnmower? I can't wait. Try it and see. So this is a different approach. So he's saying that. And personally, me thinks that sometimes me stay so. I might ask my husband to do something, and I probably say it in a way that he feels like I'm not asking, but I'm demanding. Like, say, for instance, I think Saturday I said to him, I don't remember the exact words that I used, but I was trying to tell him that I want him to clean up where the pipe is. We plant some cane and the cane kind of get wet. So I was trying to tell him that I want him to clean it up. And honest to God, it not clean up all no. And like when I came from church Sunday and I saw it, I was like, only thing I could have said, man, I meant nobody steal my job. You understand? I'm not going to let anybody steal my job, because if I was to say something, I probably would have said it in a way that, yeah, probably made the situation worse. So I just leave it, right? And these are things that I like. I like to know that you're the man of the house. You're responsible to clean up outside of the yard, basically. Just do it. Don't make me have to turn around and I beg somebody to do it, or turn around and I go do it myself. Right? I do some major acts of service like washing the car, which I wish my husband had do. Cooking a meal, painting a bedroom, or washing the deck, and then post a sign that reads to spouse and write the person name with love and sign your name. Alright? If you have more money than time, hire someone to do the act of service that you know your spouse would like for you to do, such as the lawn, the house cleaning, the car washing, the laundry. If you take the responsibility for getting it done, you will be speaking love even when you are away. So you see? Alright, so it's an actor supposed to tell you the daily acts of service that would really speak love to him or her, which we hardly do. We hardly ask the person to, tell us what they want us to do. Sometimes we expect them to know what we want them to do, which poor communication, right? Because if I want you to move the pin from here, so put it over there. So the only way the pin is going to move is if I say, boy, babes, hey, is if I say, babes, can you move the pin from here to there? In other words, the pin is going to sit there because guess what? Me never tell you move it, so you don't feel like you need to move it, right? So sometimes we have to communicate and ask the person, what can I do for you today? What would you like me to do for you today? That will make your day even lighter, right? All right, so these are some. Seek to work these into your daily schedule. Little things really do mean a lot, and trust me. Periodically ask your spouse, if I could do one special act of service this week, what would you request? If possible, do it and watch your spouse love tank fill up. So that is that. All right, so let us get into this one. So at least you're going to get the full one. Well, maybe not the full of it because me just see the phone and tell me say the battery I did. All right, so love language number 5 is mix. Oh, special. No mixing. It's love language, and the love language that we were talking about was acts of service. It's a physical touch, which is love language number 5. This is your love language mixing. All right, so we have long known that physical touch is a way of communicating emotional love. Numerous research projects in the area of child development have made that conclusion. Babies who are held, hugged, and kissed develop a healthier emotional life than those who are left for long periods of time without physical contact. The importance of touching children is not a modern idea. In the 1st century, the Hebrews living in Palestine, recognizing Jesus as a great teacher, brought their children to him to have him touch them. Right? You may remember that Jesus' disciples rebuked those parents, thinking that Jesus was too busy for such frivolous activity. But the scriptures say that Jesus was, Diane, what is your birth sign? Sagittarius. With the disciples and said, let the children come to me and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such as these. I tell you the truth, anyone who will not receive the kingdom of God like a little child will never enter it. And he took the children in his arms, put his hands on them, and blessed them. Wise parents in any culture are touching parents. Paris said, the truth, sis, I think every man should be useful around the house. If a pipe to fix or a door lock to be fixed, they supposed to can do that instead of calling someone to fix it. Well, not necessarily, Sister Shelley. They might not be able to do it, but the fact that they took the initiative to call a plumber to fix it, then understandable. I accept that. I don't want to be the one to say, every time something go wrong, and me have to call somebody to fix it. That is what I do not want. Hey, Arlene, how are you? Oh, okay. You're good people like us, Spices. Your husband is a blessed man. Talk truth, there for me, servant. Suffer the little truth. Exactly. Right? Where was I? Physical touch is also a powerful vehicle for communicating marital love. Holding hands, kissing, embracing, and sexual intercourse are always communicating emotional love to ones. Who do you call to fix a relationship? Only both of you can fix a relationship. You cannot, somebody can give you advice, but if both of you do not want the relationship to be fixed, it doesn't matter the amount of advice you get. it will not work. And yes, supposed to call God. He's an all-wise God. So if we both seek him and work on this relationship, then it will. For some individual, physical touch is their primary love language. Without it, they feel unloved. With it, their emotional tank is filled and they feel secure in the love of their spouse. The old timers used to say, the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Many a man has been fattened for the kill. By women have believed this philosophy. The old timers, of course, were not thinking of the physical art, but of a man's romantic center. Like, okay. It would be more accurate to say the way to some men's art is through their stomach. I remember the husband who said, Dr. Chapman, my wife is a gourmet cook. She spends hours in the kitchen. She made these elaborate meals. Me, I'm a meat and potatoes man. I tell her she's wasting her time. So you see that? He doesn't like all these fancy meal. But no matter how the man tell her say him not like all of this fancy meat, she still a prepare it. So what is your love language, Diane? Well, one of them is definitely acts of service. Boy, if you want it but the other don't, then it nah go. Well, me not cater how much tire obia them do it nah work if it's not both want it. Exactly. Right? So you see this man, he says, I like simple food. She gets hurt and say I don't appreciate her. Which he explained to her, I do not like these fancy meals, right? But she feels like she's taking all this time in the kitchen and at the end of cooking all of this food, him not appreciate it, but him not like it. So you can imagine now if she just decide to do potato and meat for him. He would have been the happiest man in this world. She's not considerate. She's selfish. If she keep do it after he tell. Exactly. So she's basically turning him off each time she do this. So I say, I just wish she would make it easy on herself and not spend so much time with the elaborate meals. Then we would have more time together. So right there, so you realize his love language is quality time. And she would have the energy to do some other things. Obviously, other things were closer to his heart than than fancy food. Well, other things can be that other things, right? So that man's wife was a frustrated lover. In the family in which she grew up, her mother was an excellent cook and her father appreciated her effort. So it goes back to what I was saying. Not because it's like she's trying to retrace the step of her mother. Right? Acts of service mean you're doing stuff for me, mixing. Meaning I like when the person is helpful around the house. And for instance, I was saying if my husband would say at least once a week he would just take it upon himself to wash the car for me, I would feel so good. Sometimes I can't wash all 2-3 weeks. Because if me no feel for wash it myself, and honestly, it's not every time me have $1,000 for carry the car, go car wash. So sometimes it no wash. When me want to get a good wash, then when me have $1,000, me can't get the car wash, can get it wash. But otherwise, would I probably ask my neighbor for wash it for me or me wash it myself. You understand? But if my husband would have say, all right, Tuesday I'm day off. So every Tuesday when wife come home, you know me I go wash the car. That's would I do a whole lot for me. No, he doesn't have a car. Well, my husband go with the to-do list, Shelly. Him go with him man if he man tell him do something. And like me say, probably goes back to me now. Yes, because if you are getting what you want, then definitely it going, you know, shift some other stuff. Yeah, but I don't own a vacuum, so sometimes I really have to take it to the car wash. So I don't want a vacuum, and sometimes you have to get underneath it, spray out and all of that. So when you really need a good wash, then it's best to go to the car wash. All right. Where was I? So I was saying that this lady now was tracing the step of her mother now, cooking and all of that, because her father appreciated that effort. Right? She remembers hearing her father say to her mother, when I sit down to meals like this, it's so easy for me to love you. So that is what she was trying. So that is what she was trying to get from her husband. No, but her husband was not this kind of man. Right? Her father was a wellspring of positive comments to her mother about her cooking. In private and in public, he praised her culinary skills. That daughter learned well from her mother's model. The problem is that she's not married to her father. Her husband has a different love language. Right. Right. So in my conversation with this husband, it didn't take long to discover that other things to him meant sex. When his wife was sexual responsive, he felt secure in her love. But when, for whatever reason, she withdrew from him sexually, all of her culinary skills could not convince him that she really loved him. He did not object to the fancy meals, but in his heart they could never substitute for what he considered to be love. Sexual intercourse, however, is only one dialect in the love language of physical touch. So don't get it twisted. It is not all about the sex. Of the five senses, touching, unlike the other four, is not limited to one localized area of the body. Tiny tactile receptors are located throughout the body. When those receptors are touched or pressed, nerves carry impulses to the brain. The brain interprets these impulses, and we perceive that the things that touch us is warm or cold, hard or soft. It causes pain or pleasure. We may also interpret it as a loving or hostile. Guys, let me check the time because now I'm late for work after my day so early. Alright, it's at 8 o'clock. So physical touch can make or break a relationship. It can communicate hate or love. Alright, so some parts of the body are more sensitive than others. True. The difference is due to the fact that the tiny tactile receptors are not scattered evenly over the body but arranged in clusters. Thus, the tip of the tongue is highly sensitive to touch, whereas the back of the shoulder is the least sensitive. Some of these spouses are just like most YouTubers. They want you do for them, but barely ever. Me can't manage a servant. Yeah, man mixing about that's why I touch all parts. Thus, where was thus the tip of the tip of the nose are other extremely sensitive areas. Oh, sorry, me gone too far. Thus, the tip of the tongue is highly sensitive to touch, whereas the back of the shoulder is the least sensitive. The tip of the fingers and the tip of the nose are other extremely sensitive areas. Our purpose, however, is not to understand the neurological basis of the sense of touch, but rather its psychological importance. Physical touch can make or break a relationship. It can communicate hate or love. To the person whose primary love language is physical touch, the message will be far louder than the words, I hate you or I love you. A slap in the face is determined to any child, detrimental to any child, but it is devastating to a child whose primary love language is touch. We want mix Muffats you do everything for them too. A tender hug communicates love to any child, but it shouts love to the child whose primary love language is physical touch, which is true. And I noticed my daughter kind of have a tendency for one of her love languages definitely touch and affirmating words. She love when you tell her stuff that makes her feel good. I remember one day I saw her, she saved her number and like she sent a message to herself. And when I saw that, it kind of hit me because I was like, wow. She needed me to say these things to her and I wasn't saying it to her. And so I realized that I was not doing something that she wanted. And it kind of cut me because, yeah, trust me. If you love her, you do anything for her and to her. The same is true for adults. In marriage, the touch of love may take many forms since touch receptors are located throughout the body. Loving, touching your spouse almost anywhere can be an expression of love. That does not mean that all touches are created equal. Some will bring more pleasure to your spouse than others. Your best instructor is your spouse, of course. And that is true because sometimes you men love to use your fingers and sometimes it is not fun. So if the spouse don't guide you, then you definitely won't hit that spot. After all, she is the one you are seeking to love. She knows best what she perceives as a loving touch. Don't insist on touching her in your way and in your time. Learn to speak her love dialect. Your spouse may find some touches uncomfortable or irritating. To insist on continuing those touches is to communicate the opposite of love. It is saying that you are not sensitive to her needs and that you care little about her perception of what is pleasant. Don't make the mistake of believing that the touch that brings pleasure to you will also bring pleasure to her. Do not. Okay, let me see what my battery looks like, guys. 12%. 12% is on my battery. Right? So don't irritate the woman or the man if them don't like the something, just don't do it. Don't make the mistake. Okay. Love touches may be explicit and demand your full attention, such as in a back rub or sexual foreplay, cultivating an intercourse. On the other hand, love touches may be implicit and require only a moment, such as putting your hand on his shoulder as you pour a cup of coffee or rubbing your body against him as you pass in the kitchen. Explicit love touches obviously take more time, not only in actual touching, but in developing your understanding of how to communicate love to your spouse this way. If a back massage communicates love loudly to your spouse, then the time, money, and energy you spent in learning to be a good masseur or masseuse will be well invested. If sexual intercourse is your spouse's primary dialect, reading about and discussing the art of sexual lovemaking will enhance your expression of love. That one the deep. So I'm physical and mental type person. Very overly considerate, extremely generous, very tough skin, love easy, cut you off hard if I'm hurt. They're much more. So not everything's servant. Well, I go all out. Jordan Wagwan. So I'm a licensed massage therapist. Then, if your spouse love language is one of those, then servant, you got that down. Right? So explicit love touch requires little time but much thought, especially if physical touch is not your primary love language. And if you did not grow up in a touching family, Sitting close to each other on the couch as you watch your favorite television program requires no additional time, but many communicate love loudly. Sorry, guys. Touching your spouse as you walk through the room where he is sitting takes only a moment. Touching each other when you leave the house and again when you return may involve only a brief kiss or hug, but will speak volume to your spouse. So once you discover that physical touch is the primary love language of your spouse, you are limited only by your imagination on ways to express love. Nope, them not speak that language. A backside them are done to that. Ah, you need to invest more time in dating, servant. Look like you're rushing a relationship them too fast. So once coming up with new ways and places to touch. Guys, my battery are dead. I mean, I want to start up the car. Unless me I go in a store. I can't go in a store now because the store open now. But let me finish read after page and then I go to the store. Alright, so coming up with new ways and places to touch can be an exciting challenge. If you have not been an under the table toucher, you might find that it will add a spark to your dining out. If you are not accustomed to holding hands in public, you may find that you can fill your spouse's emotional love tank as you stroll through the parking lot. If you don't normally kiss as soon as you get into the car together, you may find that it will greatly enhance your travels. Hugging your spouse before she goes shopping may not only express love, it may bring her home sooner. Try new touches in new places and let your spouse give you feedback on whether he finds it pleasurable or not. Remember, he has the final word. You are learning to speak his language. Alright, so mixing to servant, what you mean by cut you off hard? Are you saying it's hard for you to cut them off or you cut them off in a bad way? Basically, I say if you hurt him drop you like, him just drop you. It just come like all of the feelings we him did have for you no exist again. Me not look nobody again if them not forward to me. Then me will be single. Me not think there any good single woman out there for me. So suppose you touch everywhere normal already, me must touch her in the well. Truth be told, I am totally against that. But me and you know, say people out there were crazy like that. But I am totally against that. So, like the writer said, it's all up to you and your spouse. It's all up to you and your spouse. But me not believe in that. Not after God give you this nice thing. Nice thing. Very nice thing. So guys, guess what? I gotta pack up and come go in at the store so I can plug in my phone. And we can continue until it's time for me to start working. The vehicle now come. Watch out now. I come out I carry me no lock me bag. Bad girl. And me up now the car door. My granny. After me tire no straight. After me can't drive you know. And then what? No say me. So this man I try to let me down, you know. I'm straight up my tire home. Okay, so you want lick too?
Hey, tell a man that's out there road, me lick him with the gun, you know.
Me now want YouTube. Me now
can't drive for out there road for me, please.
YouTube. One lady want lick down one man right here. So me now want to no witnesses. So me I turn that way here. Cause me now want to be no witness. Alright guys, based on the fact that I can't drive, my tire not straight. Yeah, I straighten my tire. Tell us I need to invest in our parking spot, you know. But well, go on. When I look on the car, they try to lift me down here. Look. Where say you have a money for give me? You know, I don't like fooling. Me there right down a course. Lunchtime you can't come here. Yeah. Yes, guys. So me I go. Oh, you feel totally against. But mixing. That's what I'm still. That's what I'm saying. You know, I am totally against it. So if I gonna make my spouse and me have a happy relationship, we not gonna have it. So that is why we need to know our spouse before we get to that point. Music, right? So if that is what is going to make me and my spouse have the best relationship, and it is something that I am against, then it means that that spouse is not for me, right? Suppose your spouse want to touch you in an abnormal area, you're not gonna make him no. And that is why it says, if that is why it says, you know, if morning, that is why the book says, and in general, if touching is your spouse love language, then you are supposed to do what your spouse like and not what you like. So if I am not comfortable with it, guys, why would my spouse want to continue to do it? I am not comfortable with it, right? And the whole point by I YouTube me, you're not got nobody. Them a text. You understand what I'm saying? So mixing, it can't be that you not like the something your spouse want to do it. Okay? And behave yourself. C'est precious, yeah, right? That's so. Shana. Oh, I think I'll wait for her. Like I said so. Right? Alright, so guys, give me a minute. Let me just. Yeah, give me a minute. Why? Let me think on that way. Suppose your spouse like to mix in. Alright? Right? Alright, so. Alright, get back to this now, mixing. Alright, so it says the body is for touching. So whatever there is for me resides in my body. To touch my body is to touch me. To withdraw from my body is to distance yourself from me emotionally. So in our society, shaking hands is a way of communicating openness and social closeness to another individual. So when on rare occasion one man refuses to shake with another, it communicates a message that things are not right. What you call out my name for? Arlene, trust me, you don't want mixing answer the question there. I would have rather mixing not answer the question there. Right? What's an abnormal body part, by the way? All right, precious. He never say abnormal body part, Arlene. Yes, exactly. Do not answer that question, mixing. Do not answer it, mixing. Arlene, you do not want the answer. All right, so all societies have some form of physical touching as a means of social greeting. The average American male may not feel comfortable with the European bear hug and kisses. On my channel, but in Europe, that serves the same function as our shaking hands. So I said there are appropriate and he said there are appropriate and inappropriate ways to touch members of the opposite sex in every society. If you come here, go in our screen. Yeah. So the recent attention to sexual harassment has highlighted the inappropriate ways within marriage. Mr. Servant David, we are answer for. We are answer for. They couldn't just make Arlene use her imagination and get the answer. Alright? Let's say the recent attention to sexual harassment has highlighted the inappropriate ways within marriage. However, what is appropriate and inappropriate touching is determined by the couple themselves. Within certain broad guidelines, physical abuse is, of course, deemed inappropriate by society, and social organizations have been formed to help the battered wife and the battered husband. Clearly, our bodies are for touching, but not for abuse. Amen to that. Right? So this age is characterized as the age of sexual openness and freedom. With that freedom, we have demonstrated that the open marriage, where both spouses are free to have sexual intimacies with other individuals, is fanciful. Those who do not object on moral grounds eventually object on emotional grounds. Like, oh well, if it's the exit, that's exactly. That's different, right? Something about our need for intimacy and love does not allow us to give our spouse such freedom, which is true, because most of the times you find out persons, Sadian, you are going to touch the, mixing. I am not mixing. I am 150%, 200% against it. I am not. So the emotional pain is deep and intimacy evaporates when we are aware that our spouse is involved with someone else sexually. Counselors' files are filed with records of husbands and wives who are trying to grapple with the emotional trauma of an unfaithful spouse. That trauma, however, is compounded for the individual whose primary love language is physical touch, that for which he longs so deeply. Love expressed by physical touch is now being given to another. His emotional love tank is not only empty. So you see, you give it a touch. Yeah. It has been riddled by an explosion. It will take massive repairs for those emotional needs to be met. So nobody wants to give away their touch. But the cookies, me do all kind of things to it. Touch it, smell it. Jesus. Yeah. Oh Lord. In as long as I'm with my spouse. And that is your right. That is your right. It's your spouse, and you once your spouse is comfortable with it, it is your right, my dear. So would you give your husband the go ahead to get the touch somewhere else? Hell no. Like I say, if it's something where him love, it simple means say we not gonna mix. So let's just pack it up right there. Go and be with somebody who is going to do that. Hello. Hey, Green Nation, big up yourself. Wagwan. Nation, mixing over here has stressed me out. Alright, crisis and physical touch. Almost instinctively in a time of crisis, we hug one another. Why? Because physical touch is a powerful communicator of love. In a time of crisis, more than anything, we need to feel loved. We cannot always change events, but we can survive if we feel loved. All marriages will experience crisis. The death of parents is inevitable. Automobile accidents cripple and kill thousands each year. Disease is no respecter of persons. Disappointments are a part of life. The most important thing you can do for your mate in a time of crisis is to love him or her. Mixing, I smell the cookie. But then, oh, you stop short and reading what me text. No, me read it all. Smell it, rub it, kiss it, lick it, or rub it as long as I'm with my spouse. Yeah, read it all. So mixing and redeem himself. Okay. Oh, so where was I? Alright, if your spouse's primary love language is physical touch, nothing is more important than holding her as she cries. Your words may mean little, but your physical touch will communicate that you care. Crisis provides a unique opportunity for expressing love. Uno feel wear condom even if you're married. Well, it's like I said, these things are dependent on the spouse, because if both of them agree that they don't want to, then it's all up to them. I personally think it's okay, because there's a lot of things, not only infections, but you also have unwanted pregnancies that some males really can't control themselves in regards to the fact that, when it get way with them get way and them get way. So, yeah. So it all depends on the spouse. If I take them, sometimes when I go to the clinic, I get them. And if I take them home, my husband is going to use them because they're in the house. But if it's not in the house, then he's not going to go out and wait to buy them. And that is why in the relationship, we need to be faithful. Because if your spouse was faithful, then you would have not gotten HIV, right? So, crisis provider, okay. Your tender touch will be remembered long after the crisis has passed. Your failure to touch may never be forgotten. Alright, so nation, me all boil and fry it. Like I tell nation, make it go. So brother David, if I have a feeling my wife promise mixing me can so good parent, what I ready to pronounce again. Anyway, can't pronounce it. May I leave, but maybe she is a good actor still. But me understand what you say, David. Exactly. If I know that my spouse is cheating and is not willing to stop, then might as well me cut, because I don't know. I might give him a break. I might not divorce him, but I'm gonna take my space. I'm going to take my space. So since my first visit to West Palm Beach, Florida, many years ago, I have always welcomed invitation to lead marriage seminars in that area. So this is the author speaking. It was on one such occasion that I met Pete and Patsy. And he always give a scenario of a couple. They were not native to Florida, but they had lived there for 20 years and called West Palm Beach home. My seminar was sponsored by a local church, and as we drove from the airport, the pastor informed me that Pete and Patsy had requested that I spend the night at their house. I try to act excited. So you know, say Peter and Patsy have some problems, so they want to make sure say counselor come by them first. Marriage and condom, how that work? So that is what I'm saying, nation. It's not using a condom in your marriage don't necessarily mean that you don't trust your spouse. It doesn't necessarily mean that you don't trust your spouse, but what if your husband is not able to control himself and you don't want to have any more kids? Then it's best if you use the condom to prevent unwanted pregnancy. It doesn't necessarily mean that one of you is unfaithful. So it can work. Where you gotta breed up the woman and have 50 pitney and walk around in the house when all you could do is put on one little condom? Put it on. Right? Alright, knew from experience that such a request usually meant a late night counseling session. However, I was to be surprised in more than one way that night. So if my wife tell me that, then means she's for the streets. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. So as a pastor and I entered a spacious, well-decorated Spanish-style house, I was introduced to Patsy and to Charlie, the family cat. As I look around the house, I had the hunch that either Pete's business had done very well, his father had left him a huge inheritance, or he was hopelessly in debt. Later, I discovered that my first hunch was correct. When I was shown the guest room, I observed that Charlie the cat was making himself at home, stretched across the bed where I was to be sleeping. I thought, this cat has it made. Pete came home shortly, and we had a delightful snack together and agreed that we would have dinner after the seminar. Several hours later, while sharing dinner, I kept waiting for the counseling session to begin. It never did. Instead, I found Pete and Patsy to be a healthy, happily married couple. For a counselor, that is an oddity. I was eager, morning. You simple put great. No mixing. You know, simple put nothing. It can be a case where the woman just don't want to get pregnant. Alright, so because in this case, you know, if we say to the man, say, go, them always want the woman to go them home, and if we tell them, say, hey, you go do that, no, them against it. Them against it. Uno say what you want, but what I say is still truth and still honest. If I were a condom during my marriage, then I would not have gotten AIDS. When using a condom is mere suffocate, so that's why I get married and stick to one bank. Yes, nation. And that is good. That is good. Not everybody. But, well, and we also have the female condoms too. But because we only focus on the male condom, yeah. So this is an happy couple, he says. I was eager to discover their secret, but being extremely tired and knowing that Pete and Patsy were going to drive me to the airport the next day, I decided to do my probing when I was feeling more alert. They showed me to my room. Charlie the cat was nice enough to leave the room when I got there. Bounding from the bed, he headed off to another bedroom, and within minutes I was in bed. After a brief reflection of the day, I was entering the twilight zone. Just before losing touch with reality, the door to my bedroom popped open and a monster leaped on top of me. I had heard of Florida's scorpions, but this was no small scorpion. Without time to think, I grabbed the sheet that was draped over my body, and with no blood-curdling shriek, flung the monster against the wall, the far wall. I heard his body hit the wall, and then silence. Pete and Patsy came running down the hallway, turned on the light, and we all looked at Charlie lying still. Oh my God! Pete and Patsy have never forgotten me, and I have never forgotten them. Charlie did revive in a few minutes, but he did not come back to my room. In fact, Pete and Patsy told me later that Charlie never went back to that bedroom again. Oh my, devastate poor little Charlie. Greenish, and back then I would take off the condom and then fret after. I took life serious and stop it, so did have to pass up on my many banks. And like I said, that's totally understandable because some people really, really and truly, just like how you that have a food allergy or something, some people really can use it for true. You have some persons that don't even get an erection if they put it on. Poor Charlie. After my abuse of Charlie, I wasn't sure whether Pete and Patsy would still want to take me to the airport the next day or if they would have any further interest in me. However, my fears vanished when, after the seminar, Pete said, "Dr. Chapman, I have been to many seminars, but I have never heard anyone describe Patsy and me as clearly as you. That love language idea is so true. I can't wait to tell you our story." A few minutes after saying goodbyes to those attending the seminar, we were in the car for our 45 minutes drive to the airport, and Pete and Patsy began to tell me their story. In the early years of their marriage, they had tremendous difficulties, but some 22 years earlier, all of their friends agreed that they were the perfect couple. Pete and Patsy certainly believed that their marriage was made in heaven. They had grown up in the same community, attended the same church, and graduated from the same high school. Their parents had similar lifestyles and values. Pete and Patsy enjoyed many of the same things, and you rarely find a couple that do these things, right? They both liked tennis and boating, and they often talked about how many interests they held in common. You see, a little more dating. All right, mixing. I am a skilled without a condom. My wife will not get pregnant because I am a master of. We're not yet open, sir. All right, they had grown up in the same community, attended. Oh, why am I going back so far? They both like tennis and boating, and they often talk about many interests they held in common. They seem to possess all the commonalities that are supposed to assure fewer conflicts in a marriage. Miracle. All right, skill is skill. But if she gets priggy, I would know from early so we can do something about it. If I don't want skills. Well, I can't do nothing about it. It done did already. Sorry, I'm a nasty cold. Right? They began dating in their senior year in high school. They attended separate college. Oh, Una no answer me. Why a question, servant? Me not seen a question, servant. Ask the question again. So Una say what you want, but what I say is still, if I wear a condom during my marriage, I would not. If that is a question, then that is true. Because basically you're saying that your spouse was unfaithful. So if your spouse was unfaithful, then the ideal thing was to protect yourself. And you both also needed was to discuss this before it had gotten out of hand. We're not yet open, sir. Mm-mm. Oh, are you? Yes. 9 o'clock. Next 15 minutes. No, you miss it. Say it again. Come in and see it then. They began dating in their senior year in high school. They attended separate college, but managed to see each other at least once a month and sometimes more often. By the end of their freshman year, they were convinced that they were meant for each other. Not by law, David. You'll still have to mind the child. Let me never say that. If I don't want kids and that happens, servant, there are many ways to put things back to normal once I find out early. And I do not believe in that mixing if that is what you're thinking. I do not believe in that. Maybe it took a while, because honestly I used to, but it took a while. I guess it took a while for me to realize that once we conceive the child, then it means that the Bible says, no, I knew you before you were even conceived in your mother's womb. So the mere fact that the child is conceived, God has a purpose for the child. And if you're going to get rid of that child, it means that you're getting rid of the purpose that God had for the child. So you're killing purpose. If I say wear condom and she say no, then get preg, that means I not have to mind the picnic because is she it depends on the state where you're in. It depends on the state, because you know that some states by law them are gonna sue your backside and you have to go mind a picnic. While you have another state where probably are gonna tell you say you're not obligated to take care of the child because it was the person who wanted the child. So it all depends on the state that you're living in. But if by any chance you get a child, whether by choice, once a child come, a your child had done your pitney, and you never know, that pitney that might be the one pitney where really even come back come look on you. The one where you not even did want. So if I know I can't afford any more kids and condom can stop it, but she never want me use condom, then top have sex with her, simple. That's fine. That's not your only way for control. You're not having the child and you don't want the child. And that is why I say go back to the dating board. Because if you're going to wait until your marriage, you decide to look here. You know, so only one pitney me want. And the woman don't decide to want a football match or then what gonna give her the rest when you only give her one? Right? So guys, kind of whole heap of page, whole heap of, oh, not really. Not really. Whose fault? Your fault. Are you go same way? Are you go same way, no? You know so you can't control it and she say no condom. And you want it same way, so you go same way. Right? Alright, so they both agreed, however, to finish college before marriage. For the next 3 years, they enjoy an idyllic dating relationship. You see how long them a date for 3 years? Yeah? One weekend, he would visit her campus. The following weekend, she would visit his campus. The third weekend, they would go home to visit the folks, but spend most of the weekend with each other. The fourth weekend of each month, they agreed not to see each other, thus giving each of them freedom to develop individual interests. The fourth, except for special events such as birthdays, they consistently follow that schedule. 3 weeks after he received his degree in business and she a degree in psychology, they were married. 2 months later, they moved to Florida, where Pete had been offered a good job. They were 2 miles from their nearest relative. They could enjoy a honeymoon forever. The first 3 months were exciting. Moving, finding a new apartment, enjoying life together. The only conflict they could remember was over washing dishes. Pete thought he had a more efficient way to complete that chore. Patsy, however, was not open to his idea. Eventually, they had agreed that whoever washed the dishes could do it his or her way, and that conflict was resolved. They were about 6 months into the marriage when Patsy began to feel that Pete was withdrawing from her. He was working longer hours, and when he was at home, he spent considerable time with the computer. When she finally expressed her feelings that he was avoiding her, Pete told her that he was not avoiding her, but simply trying to stay on top of his job. He said that he didn't understand the pressure he was under and how important it was that he do well in his first year on the job. Patsy wasn't pleased, but she decided to give him space. So David said, 3 years is a little bit of time. Yeah, but I mean that's a good amount of time for somebody to date. Nowadays we not go we a date for 3 years. After 2 3 months, you and the person come like gonna can't live one another. You notice oh what they do? They give themselves a week apart. So even though they were in a relationship, they did not spend every time together. So David, it's still your fault because you couldn't walk away and say no condom, no intercourse. True, okay, I agree. It would be both our fault. David, if she rape you, that's different. True, David. So both person would be responsible to the parents of the innocent child. Exactly. Moffat, and that them do we all the time. Them do it in so many different ways, but true way man turn fool to we not woman nobody that do you know boy you turn fool and you want you take it. Right? So Patty began to develop friendship with other wives who lived in the apartment complex. Often when she knew Pete was going to work late, she would go shopping with one of her friends instead of going straight home after work. Sometimes she was not at home when Pete arrived. That annoyed him greatly, and he accused her of being thoughtless and irresponsible. Patsy retorted, "This is a pot calling the kettle black. Who is irresponsible? You don't even call me and let me know when you will be home. How can I be here for you when I don't even know when you will be here? And when you are here, you spend all your time with that dumb computer. You don't need a wife. All you need is a computer." To which Pete loudly responded, "I do need a wife. Don't you understand? That's the whole point. I do need a wife." But Patsy did not understand. She was extremely confused. In her search for answers, she went to the public library and checked out several books on marriage. "Marriage is not supposed to be this way," she reasoned. "I have to find an answer to her situation." When Pete went to the computer room, Patsy would pick up her book. In fact, on many evenings, she read until midnight. Patsy loved read. On his way to bed, Pete would notice her and make sarcastic comments such as, "If you read that much in college, you would have made straight A's." Patsy would respond, "I am not in college, I'm in marriage, and right now, I'd be satisfied with a C." Pete went to bed without so much as a second glance. All right, so servants a day, and isn't that a God blessed something? So, oh, you're afraid for call the name. Call it loud and proud. Puni after all is that. Exactly. That's why I'm tell mixing say me totally against the exit. Totally against it. Right? So guys, I'm gonna read the last little part here because of 6 minutes to 9. So at the end of the first year, Patsy was desperate. She had mentioned it before, but this time she calmly said to Pete, "I am going to find a marriage counselor. Do you want to go with me?" But Pete answered, "I don't need a marriage counselor. I don't have time to go to a marriage counselor. I can't afford a marriage counselor." "Then I'll go alone," Patsy said. "Fine. You are the one who needs counseling anyway." The conversation was over. Patsy felt totally alone, but the next week she made an appointment with a marriage counselor. After 3 sessions, the counselor called Pete and asked if he would be willing to come in to talk about his perspective on their marriage. Pete agreed, and the process of healing began. 6 months later, they left the counselor's office with a new marriage. So I guess it does help some persons, right? So that's it for the book, guys. So Green Nation said, "I agreed with Pete. That's what my ex-wife said to me, so I went to counseling by myself." Which party agree with Pete, Green Nation, when him say him don't need a marriage counselor? Because if you notice, at the end of the day, it was the marriage council that really brought their marriage back together. Because the thing is, Patsy was not used to having a spouse who would spend most of his time working. And they were not used to living under the same roof. One would have been in college. They would have both been in college. So at the end of the day, when they had to live under the same roof now, they realized that they were not spending, or Patsy realized that Pete was not spending enough time with her. Right? But it all depends. For some, relationship counseling does help, while for others, because like we said in the first segment of the stream, like, if both persons not willing to make it work, then it will not work. Because David said him got a counselor, but still fee marriage never work. And it kind of hard to get back from a relationship that somebody that you think would have your back. Person you're supposed to be trusting the person, and then you find out that the person give you AIDS. So it kind of hard. But at the end of the day, the Bible says forgive 70 times 7. So even if, I don't know if David has forgiven his wife or his ex-wife for allow him to contract. Yes, but I went alone. For allowing him to contract HIV. But at some point, maybe he will if he have not. I don't know if you have, David. So a couple have to understand each other for things to work. Maybe had we both went, it could be saved. See, maybe. So sometimes we have to give it a shot, because sometimes we always hear this saying, desperate time calls for desperate measures. So if going to a counsel is that desperate measure that you have to take to try to recover your relationship, then by all means, go ahead. Go ahead. You ever give somebody advice? Thanks, sis. You ever give somebody an advice, and after it literally come out of your mouth, and you realize you're in the same position, and you're giving somebody else an advice, and like after the words come out of your mouth, you're saying to yourself in your mind, why can't I take my own advice? Why can't I take my own advice? But sometimes, and then another person may say, but at the same thing, me I tell him. Sometimes we just need to hear it from somebody else. My spouse could be saying it to me. My friends could be saying it to me. But I just need a fresh voice to say it to me, and then it all makes sense. So David said, of course, I forgive her. I still cut her grass and help her take care of all 4 kids that are not mine. So that is good. People must learn to be true to themselves and say what they mean. Many want out of the relationship and not saying it. True again. Arlene said, have a blessed and peaceful day. Same to you, Arlene. And it says, when I say cut grass, I mean literally go outside and yard. I know say that I mean, brother. And me and her not in anything at all. So guys, thank you for taking the time out to join me. But the store is about to open, so I have to go. So enjoy your day, and thank you so much. And go ahead and thumbs up my live. I have a live schedule. Thumbs it up, and click the notification bell. I can't promise you that I'll be on again before that time, but I'm going to try to come on in the morning when I get to work early, because I'm supposed to be at work at 9. So if I reach by 8 o'clock, then I can come on for that hour. All right, so peace out. And nation, thanks again for the hours, but guess what? YT take away all of them back because me never make it. So yeah, peace out, guys.